Boker Tov. Today's Daf Yomi is Bava Basra Daf Yud Zayin Bava Basra 17. Today's Daf Yomi dedicated for Shmira for Am Yisrael Hatzal for the Shvuyim Yeshua for the Chayalim. We're going to start on the bottom line of Tez Zayin Amabez, bottom line of 16b. The Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan Shlosha Etiman HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bo Mazeh Me'ein Olam Haba. There are three people who were in this world. God gave them a taste of the world to come. And who are these three people? Elohim. These three people are Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. These three people are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Avram, because it says the word bakol. And the reason why we got into this is because we yesterday mentioned the reason we got into this is because yesterday we mentioned the word bakol. And so here we're saying that the word bakol means that they had a taste of everything. And so they had a taste of almost like the world to come. Hold on one second. So by Avram it says the word Vashem Berachas Avram Bakol. That means he had a taste of the world to come. Yitzchak because it says Mikol, because it says by Yitzchak, it also says that he was blessed from everything. And so by Yitzchak it says Va'ochal Mikol. And by Yaakov, because it says also by Yaakov, Ki Yesh Likol. Yaakov says to Esav, I don't need what you have, Ki Yesh Likol, because I have everything. There are three people who the Yetzer Hara was not able to rule over. And who are these three people? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Avram, because it says by Avram, it says by Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Bakol Mikol Kol. The Yesh Omrim also David, also by David, because it says by David, the Libi Chalol B'Kirbi, my heart died in my insides, which means to say that he wasn't affected by the Yetzer Hara. Idach Tzarahu the Kamitkar. No, he was just remembering the pain. He was saying he had so much pain and he died as a result of it. So Tan Rabbanan Shisha Shalapah. There are six people who the angel of death did not rule over them. Mean to say that they died with a kiss. They died from the kiss of Hashem. Who are these six people? The Elohim, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Miriam. Who are these six people? These six people are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, because it says Bakol Mikol Kol. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, because it says by them Bakol Mikol Kol, which means they weren't missing anything, and so therefore they weren't missing any honor, and so therefore it says by Avram by. So therefore, that's an indication that they weren't missing incredibly powerful death for a kiss from Hashem, and the angel of death did not rule over them. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, because it says Al Pi Hashem, that they died by the mouth of Hashem, and so this is an indication that they had a neshika from Hashem, they had a kiss from Hashem, and that's how they died. Gemara says, "Miriam will ksiv al pi Hashem." This is this week's parsha. But Miriam doesn't say al pi Hashem. It says Vatam Hashem Miriam. So Amar Belazar, Miriam nami beneshika mesa. She also died by a kiss from Hashem. That's Yashasham Mimoshe, because it says by Miriam it says Vatamas Sham Miriam, and also by Moshe Rabbeinu it says by Moshe Rabbeinu it says Vayama Sham Moshe Eved Hashem. And so since it says the word Shem by both of them, we see that they died in the same manner. But why doesn't it say that Miriam died by the mouth of Hashem? The reason is this is something that's disrespectful to say that this woman, Miriam, died from a kiss from Hashem. It's disrespectful to speak about a woman in that manner. There are 7 people for whom a worm and maggots did not roll over them, meaning to say that the bodies stayed in a pristine state. Who are these 7 people? Me'olein, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, Binyamin ben Yaakov. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, and Binyamin, the son of Jacob. Why does it have to say Binyamin ben Yaakov? I was thinking because like 2 or 3 days ago in the daf, we saw that there was Binyamin had Tzaddik, and that was not a reference to Benjamin, son of Jacob. That was a reference to the charity on the top of the page. It's talking about how Binyamin had Tzaddik used to give away the Klipa Shel Tzedakah. And so, since there was a discussion about how Binyamin had Tzaddik, and that was not Binyamin, the son of Jacob, so therefore, for that reason, it mentions here Binyamin ben Yaakov, Binyamin, the son of Jacob. So these 7 people, the worms and maggots did not rule over their bodies. Avram, Yaakov, because it says Bakol Mikol Kol, because it says the word that they had everything. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, because it says Al Pi Hashem. And Binyamin ben Yaakov, there says, Binyamin Amar Yedid Hashem, Yishkon Levet Achoav. The friend of God, Yishkon Levet Achoav. God will dwell securely upon him. And so therefore it means that there are no worms or maggots. The Yeshem Af David, Dechsev, Af Besari Yishkon Levet Achoav. It says about David, it says, my flesh will last forever. No, David was just requesting mercy from Hashem. And now we see this Gemara, which also appears in Shabbos. Tanarbanan Arba Mesu Ba'atio Shel Nachash. There are 4 who died. Ba'atav Shel Nachash. There are 4 who died. Ba'atio Shel Nachash. They died. Rashi says the Atio is the council of the snake, meaning to say that they didn't commit any sin. The only reason why they died was because Adam took the counsel of the snake. They died because of the sin of Adam and the snake. And so therefore, if it weren't for that, they wouldn't have died. So there are 4 people who died as a result of this. Who are these 4 people? Meaning to say, other than this, they had no other sin. Elohein, Binyamin ben Yaakov, Amram, Avi Moshe. They're Benjamin, Amram, the father of Moshe, Yishai, Avi David, Yishai, the father of David, and Kilov ben David, and Kilov, the son of David. Some of the commentaries say, the Velt says that none of these 4 were the ones who were the Gadol Ador. They weren't the greatest of their generation. They were great tzaddikim, but they weren't the ones, because if you're going to be the Gadol Ador, if you're going to be the leader, for sure you're going to commit some mistakes. So how do we know this? Cool Gemara. All of them are, it's just a tradition. Lavar mi Yishai Avi David, except for Yishai, the father of David, the Mefarish Beikra, because he has a pasuk that says it, because it says about Yishai, the father of David, it says, Ves Amasa Sam Avshalom Tachas Yoav Al-Tzava, that Avshalom placed Amasa in place of Yoav on the army. Amasa ben Ish, Ushmo Yisra HaYisraeli. And Amasa was the son of a man whose name was Yisra the Israeli, Asher Baal Abigail Bas Nachash, who had a child with Abigail, the daughter of Nachash, Achos Tzruya, the sister of Tzruya, Aim Yoav, the mother of Yoav. Meaning to say that Avshalom appointed as a general Amasa, the son of Yisra, and Yisra was the husband of Abigail Bas Nachash, and Abigail was the sister of Tzruya, who was the mother of Yoav. V'chi Bas Nachashi, Mo Bas Yishai. But as Abigail, the daughter of Nachash, she was the daughter of Yishai, because it says, with respect to the children of Yishai, V'achioseim Tzruya v'Abigail, and their sister was Tzruya, and their sisters were Tzruya and Abigail, and so therefore, these are the 2 daughters of Yishai. So therefore, it calls them, why is it called Bas Nachash? Bas Misha Meis Ba'atiot Shel Nachash. It's the daughter of the one who died with the advice of Nachash, and that was Yishai. So Yishai died as a result of the sin of the snake, but other than that, he would not have died because he had no other sin. He had no sin. Hadron Alach HaShutfin, we return to you this first chapter called HaShutfin. We see from here, the parak is called HaShutfin, partners, and it ends with the chapter and talks about how all men are responsible for each other. That all men is responsible for each other, and so therefore, for this reason, it's called Ashutfin, and also that we die for the sins of Adam from the snake. So now we come to the next chapter. We're back into real Bava Basra issues, and we're talking about how much you're responsible to distance your dangers from another person. So it says as follows: Adam bor samoch leboro shel chavero. A person should not dig his well near the well of his friend. V'lo yachbor shiach This is a long pit. V'lo ma'ara, and this is a square pit. V'lo amasamayim, and not a channel of water. V'lo nevrechas kodsim, and not a pond of water that they use for laundry. Next to the pit of his friend, Elam came hirchek mikosel chaver shloshet tfachim. Unless he does two things. First of all, he needs to distance his pit from his friend by 3 tefachim, 3 handbreadths, and also visad besid, and also he has to place this lime compound on his well so that it doesn't damage the well of his friend. Marchikim esagefes ve'esazevel, and also if a person has produced gefes, which is the refuse of the olives after he presses out the oil, and the zevel, and this is the manure, vesamelach, and the salt, vesasid, vesaslayim, and the lime and the slime are like the Flintstones, different explanations. Person has to distance this mikosel shel chaver shloshet tefachim. He has to distance it from his friend's wall by 3 tefachim. Visad besid, and the commentary saying means, or he has to place lime on these things to protect the wall of his friend. So in the first case he has to do both, in the second case he has to do one or the other, and so too. Marchikin es azrayim v'esamacharesha. If he plants seeds and if he plows, he has to distance himself as meiragayim and akosel shlosheh tefachim. Or if he urinates, he has to distance himself from his friend's wall by 3 tefachim, because all these things ruin his friend's wall. V'chei marchikin es arechayim. He has to distance a millstone from the wall of his friend. Shlosha min hashechev. He has to 3 tvachim from the bottom of the millstone. There are 2 parts of the millstone. We learned this at the end of Bava Basra. And she'ein arba min harechav, which is 4 tefachim from the top. And as hatanor, and then he has to distance his oven from the wall of his friend. Shlosha min hakalya, she'ein arba min hasafa. He has to distance him 3 tefachim from the. He has to distance his oven from the wall of his friend, 3 tefachim from the bottom base, which is the oven sits on, which is the kilya, and which is 4 from the safa, which is the top of it. Now we go to the Gemara on the top of the Yitzayin of a base. Pasach before Messiah Bekosel. So the Gemara asks the question. We start off by saying you're not allowed to dig a well near your friend's well, or a pit near your friend's pit, and then it says, and you have to, unless you distance yourself from his wall by 3 tefachim. So why do we start off by talking about a well, and then we go to talking about a kosel? So we change. It's a mixed metaphor. So Amar Abaye v'tem Rav Yehuda mikosel borishin. So the first explanation is the explanation of Abaye. Some say Rav Yehuda, that the Tana means to say that you have to distance yourself from the wall of your friend's pit, meaning to say you have to. Not from the wall that was built on his ground, but not from a wall that was on the ground, but the wall of your friend's pit. And that's what it means. So it's really talking about the same case. Mar says, well, if that's the case, it should say, instead of you distance yourself from his wall 3 tefachim, it should say you just distance yourself from his pit for 3 tefachim. So the Gemara says, no, Kamash 1 is coming to teach us a chiddush. What's the chiddush? The kosel bor shloshet tefachim. It's teaching us the chiddush that the wall of a pit is 3 tefachim. It's teaching us the chiddush that the wall of a pit is 3 tefachim. Why? How do we know this? Because since it says unless you distance yourself from his wall 3 tefachim, that implies that also the first person is not allowed to place his pit on the border, but he also has to distance it from the second person. And so we say, therefore, that they both have to distance it the equidistant, which is 3 tefachim from the wall. So we see from here that it proves that the wall of a pit is 3 tefachim. The nafkamina is if you buy, the distinction we care about is if you're buying a well, and you assume that the assumption is that the wall has to be 3 tefachim, otherwise it won't hold. To the Tanya, I'm going to sell you a pit with its walls. It needs to be 3. The wall needs to be 3 tefachim. So the Gemara now brings a dispute amongst the Amoraim if a person is allowed to place his pit on the border with his friend. In Marabois Moch Bitzadamit. So let's say you want to put your pit on the border between your field and your friends. Abaye Amar Somach. Abaye says you're at it now before your friend has one there, so you want to put yours first there. So Abaye says you could put it there. You're allowed to put it there. Somach, you're allowed to put your pit there, and you don't need to go further 3 tefachim into your territory uh, because your neighbor doesn't have anything there for you to damage him. Rava says, Eino samach. You're not allowed to put it there. You have to distance yourself 3 tefachim because maybe he's going to put it there. Now, the Gemara says, well, what type of field are we talking about? If it's a field where there's the expectation that you're going to put pits there, this is the Gemara's first approach. Everybody says you can't put it. Even Abai would say you can't put it because you're going to expect the other person will put it there. Now we're talking about a case where it's not expected that he's going to put his well there. Abai says so. Abai says you can put your put there. You don't expect the other guy to put his pit there. Rava says you can't put it. Just like you decided to dig one there, I'll also dig one there. So that's a dispute. But an alternative version of this dispute is if it's a pit if it's a field that's not expected to put pits there, everybody says you could do it because you don't have to worry the other guy's going to put it there. No, we're talking about a case where there's the expectation that they're going to put pits. Abaye says, Somech. Abai says you're allowed to put it because even according to the rabbis who say you have to be worried about the damage you're going to do from your field into somebody else's field, that's that's only if when you put your thing down in your field, the guy already has a well there. But now when you put it down, he doesn't have anything there, so you don't have to worry about it. Rabba says, Eino Somach, you're not allowed to do it. I feel Rabbi Yossi, even according to the position of Rabbi Yossi, we're going to learn about on 25b. Rabbi Yossi says you have to distance yourself, even if your friend, that it's the mazik's responsibility to make sure that he's not damaging the nizak's property. Even according to Rabbi Yossi, Zecho for betoch shalo, betoch shalo. Everybody's allowed to do something on their domain. And so here, Rabbi Yossi would say, so according to Rabbi Yossi, who says that you don't need to worry about the other person's property, here you would be required to worry about it because he would say that in that case, in the case of the tree, he would say because at the moment you planted it, you don't have the roots to damage the pit. But he says every time you dig in the ground, you're ruining my property. So again, the first approach said that Abaye who says that you're allowed to put it down, and Rava says you can. And we're talking about a field that was expected that you're going to put pits there, and so therefore, if it would be a field that was not expected to put puts there, but if it was a field that was expected to be puts, everybody would say you can't do it. Where are they arguing? They're arguing about a field that was not expected to do pits. That since it's not expected to do pits, Abai says you can do it, and Rava says you can, because the other guy might also decide to do it. But now the second approach is that if it was a field that was not expected to do pits, everybody would say you could do it. Where they're arguing about is a field where there was an expectation that you're going to put pits. Abai says you could do it because even according to the Rabbanan who say you have to distance yourself, here in this case, that this other guy doesn't have anything up yet. But Rabba says you can't put it up in that case, even according to Rabbi Yossi who says that it's not your job to worry. That even according to Rabbi Yossi, that's in the case where when you put down your tree, there was no roots. But here in this case, when you put down the well, you're causing damage. So that's the approach. So basically, according to this second approach that we're saying, that Abaye says that if it's a field that was made for pits, Abaye says you could put it down because he doesn't have it down yet. And Rabba says you can't do it because right now at that moment you're going to be doing damage. But if it would be a field that was not made to do pits, then everybody would say that you could put it down right away. So the Gemara says, according to Rava, again, what's Rava's approach? Rava says that if it's a field that was made to do pits, you can do it at all now, because at the moment you're making damage. Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, you're not allowed to dig a pit next to your friend's pit. Time of the Ika bor. What's the reason why you can't do it? Because the other person has a pit there. I like a bor, but if there's no pit there, somech, you're allowed to do it. Isn't this exactly like a bay? This makes sense according to the approach, the second approach that says in a field that was not made for pits, everybody says you could put it down. Or our Mishnah is talking about a field that was not made for pits. But according to the first approach, that they're arguing in a field that was not made for pits, and Rava says that you can't put it down there. According to Abaye, it's okay, because he says a person is not allowed to dig there. But Rava Kasha, but according to Rava, who says that even if it was a field that's not made for pits, you can't dig it there. How we explain our Mishnah, who says that you're not allowed to put it down only in a case where the other person already has his pit. Rava says, no, we learned in the base medrash. Amar by Vitim Rav Yehuda, Mikoso Boroshin. No, it means that you can't put it down 3 tefachim from his wall, meaning to say you needed that even the first person was required to put it down 3 tefachim from the border, because so that this other person can have a wall there. Ikadamri, Gemara says, other approach is that we're going to challenge our Mishnah on Abaye, not on Rava. Ikadamri, the Itmar law that we learned, Amar Abaye, Vitem Rav Yehuda, Mikoso Barashan, that we learned that you need to keep it down 3 tefachim from the wall of his pit. This makes sense according to one who says the first approach, that if it was a field that was made for pits, everybody says you can't do it. And we say our Mishnah is talking about a field that was made for pits. But according to the second opinion, since that if it's a field that was made for pits, they're arguing. According to Rava, it's okay, because he says a person can't put his pit on the field of his friend that's made for pits unless he distances it. But according to Abaye, who allows you to do it, how would he explain it? Our Mishnah is talking about a case where they both came to dig at the same time. Then everybody would admit that each one of them has to distance it 3 tefachim. So Gemara says, let's challenge Abaye So Gemara says, we're going to learn that, let's say there was the earth that when you came to dig it, it came up in your hand. Each one could dig on their own property. Each one has a distance of 3 tefachim and line their pit with line. And so therefore we see from this Tosefta that even if the first one came first, he has to distance it from the border, even if he came first. And this is not like Abaye says that if a guy came there first, he's allowed to do it. So Gemara says, no, Babi Yadayim Shani, that case is different, because there the earth was so soft, so it's clear it's going to damage the other person's property. The Karele, my Karele. So what was the person who asked that question? What was he asking? He says, Babi Yadayim Tzchuchalei. No, he says that those Sefta is teaching us the Chiddush of Babi Yadayim. Salkadai Tchamina. You might have thought that keeping the Babi Adam we buy Nami Ravachat. You might have thought you need more distance. Kamash Mon, he's teaching us you don't. So now the Gemara is going to challenge Rava, but we're going to stop here for today's daf, and we're going to